And I was blessed to have an opportunity. Met a guy, and he wanted me to be his national sales director selling video advertising. So I decided to leave healthcare and started consulting. I put the work in, and since that time, I've opened 2 digital marketing companies. If you're working for somebody else, you're not following your dream, you're following somebody else's dream. We're all going to fall down. We're all going to make mistakes. It's how quick you get back up again, because you only hear about the one success they've had.
Yeah.
But they may have had 15 failures before they actually, like Abraham Lincoln, ran for, I think, president 7 times before he got elected. I don't care if it's even a hobby. A hobby could turn into a business or a side business.
All right, what is going on, guys? Welcome to Be Frank Podcast, episode 32. Today we have a guest. He is a digital marketer, entrepreneur. He's a guy, knows a guy, or whatever. Clayton Fowlie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Yosuke. Hey, if you know, everybody knows a guy that knows a guy. Well, I'm that guy. No.
Yeah, I mean, like, you knew the guy, and then we met, I think, almost 10 years ago, because I started my business as Gen M in 2013, 14-ish. So that was before then. I was with different business partner back then, and then what did we do? Like, we shot. You asked us to make a video.
Right.
Oh, that was alpaca stuff.
Well, yeah, it was kind of funny because I went to the Oklahoma Lollapalooza or something like the OKC. Schmoozapalooza, right?
Yeah.
And I met your former boss there.
Yeah.
And I was out handing out business cards, telling them what I did. And I was basically, at that time, doing pre-roll video advertising for clients. And I met your boss there. And I had a shoot I had to do for one of my clients, and it really wasn't people, it was alpacas, and these great people in Yukon, they had an alpaca company, and I think I met you and at that time JC there, and then I started working on the side with JC on some deals, and obviously he dragged me to you. So.
Yeah, so you know the guy knows the guy. And then so you were doing healthcare first, right? And then you went to digital marketing. Can you kind of I like to ask questions that kind of introduce yourself, but if you have a website you're building today, and then you're writing your bio, what would that be?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. My career, I was trained formally in hospital personnel work, and when I graduated from college, I was a hospital personnel director I think at 25 years old, relatively young. And from there, I got involved into more outpatient type clinics. But somewhere in between that gap of going into the clinic world, I was in politics. I was a county commissioner for 4 years on the coast of Maine. One little novelty I tell people about, because I'm not from Oklahoma originally and people don't understand me half the time. My wife has to yell. When we go through a drive-through, my wife has to yell through the window and tell them what I want because they don't understand me. But I grew up on the coast of Maine, lobster capital of the world, and I was really blessed to be the Chamber of Commerce director of that area for about 7 years. And we went from basically 300 members a year total up to about 600 by the time I had left. But during that time, I was Chamber of Commerce director. I had left healthcare. Then I basically got asked by a friend that had some outpatient clinics, would you come manage them for me? And I said, sure, why not? And from there, I got back into healthcare full time. My last gig was really a CEO of neuro rehab centers. I opened stroke, brain injury. So if someone had a car accident, someone had a stroke, we helped them on not only their acute needs, but also on a day treatment basis. And after about 13 years of doing that and going from one clinic to opening 7 clinics, I just get tired of it. Corporate healthcare is changing. The Affordable Healthcare came involved. It's not managed care about the patients, more about managing the costs for the institutions. So I decided to leave healthcare and started consulting.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But it's interesting to me, you're saying, the United States healthcare used to be care about patient more.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't like this all the time.
No, I mean, I grew up in got out of high school in the 70s, went to college in the 70s.
Yeah.
And nursing care, for example, was one-on-one nurses. I actually I've been married twice in my life, and both of them were to nurses. So I have a good, plus I worked in the healthcare business. But what I learned was that the patient care was better back then.
Mm-hmm.
It was more one-on-one. It wasn't about scanning a barcode before you come into the room.
Right.
As opposed to, so what happened was that the companies realized that they used to be reimbursed for all the costs. There used to be something, a cost reporting that was through Medicare, CMS. So most hospitals and clinics were reimbursed by cost reimbursement. So whatever you expended for cost, you got reimbursed. Well, that got changed, and they came up with managed care. Managed care is basically trying to manage everybody's care. But what they did during that time is they came up with studies and reports that what's the typical length of stay that someone would stay in a facility, how long they need rehab. So when that came out, people they were reimbursed on how quickly they cured someone, or how quickly they got somebody out of the hospital. So they had to start measuring outcomes.
So if the patient is gone, leave the hospital quicker, they make more money?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Wow.
Exactly. I mean,
why is that?
Just because the regulations set by CMS. So basically, my wife's the case manager of several case managers, and basically, they want to get you in, but they want to make sure that they do a good job up front. But if you come back in the 30 days after you're discharged from the hospital gets dinged financially. So what they're doing now is setting up more telemedicine programs, making sure that when you're discharged or anybody's discharged, that you're taken care of, you're doing the right things, so you're not readmitted. But I always felt they called it managed care. It's really managing the hospital cost.
So is that like an insurance company rewarding, or like a government is rewarding?
Well, CMS is basically a governmental program. It runs the state's Medicaid programs, and also runs the Medicare programs.
Gotcha.
So most insurance companies follow suit with the feds, basically. So a lot of your private carriers, Blue Cross Blue Shields, United Healthcares of the world, they kind of follow whatever the reimbursements is from the federal government. So, but it really, in today's world, I think everybody needs to realize we have to take care of ourselves, and you probably realize that after COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's really about managing costs for the hospitals, for the clinics, for them to survive, and even though they care about the patient, don't get me wrong, great therapists, but the business side, everything is a business. I mean, if the hospitals don't make any kind of profit, or if you're a private, non-profit hospital, if you have no margin, you have no mission. You don't have the resources to do it. So.
Yeah, for sure. And Izzy, can you turn off the AC too? I guess it's just going off.
It's getting hot on this camera now.
And then, but anyways, you can turn it up so that, just close it. But anyways, because my girlfriend was in the hospital for a long time, and then I've heard like what's that called, like a home care nurse. Mm-hmm. Like they come and then they say like, well, I used to be able to come here like every day, but now it's like I only can come here once a week. And then also like a hospital, when she got discharged, she wasn't kind of ready. Like she could have stayed longer. She was still like in the antibiotics and all that kind of stuff. And then she didn't feel comfortable going home, but they're like, well, you can go home or go home, So that kind of makes sense. Kind of opened my eye to me that, insurance company or those kind of medical care that, they're saying like, oh, we need a hospital bed, but I see those empty rooms.
Right.
So like, I thought that was like kind of like, what is going on? And I thought that this was the way it has always been, in the United States. But I guess it was.
No, it used to be unlimited stays. I mean, if you had an injury, you broke an ankle, or you got in a car accident, it used to be unlimited. Your insurance company, they were called the old indemnity plans, and basically you paid typically 20%, stay as long as you want, and your insurance company, based on the premiums you paid the 80%. So sometimes some plans you actually could get a portion of that 20% back. But when the whole thing changed and they started managing, some of them had to be managed better anyways. But I think the patient relationship, even with the doctors. I mean, doctors, when I was a kid, I didn't go to the hospital. The doctor used to come to our house.
Yeah.
The doctor would come to our house and, hey, my mom would call him and say, my son's got a cough, it won't go away. Well, 5 o'clock at night, he'll knock on the door and the doctor will have a bag and walk into your house. And so times have changed. And I think even doctors today that used to work independent now work for the big corporations. They're a hospital corporation.
Gotcha.
Very few physicians actually work on their own now.
Got you. So then when you're working as the CEO, like for, you said 13 years or 17 years?
About 13 years. CEO.
13 years. And then you said you went to digital market.
Mm-hmm.
So like what made you like just like jump into digital marketing or like a career change, I guess?
Mm-hmm. Drastic career change, but not so much. I mean, when my background from running the Chamber of Commerce, I was always involved heavily in the marketing. So I always knew my message. Even though I had people going out talking and presenting my programs, I always knew what my mission had to be done. So I always was a spokesperson for my organization. I did the marketing plan. I basically told them where to go, what to say. But when I left healthcare, I started consulting, and I started working with outpatient clinics, couple here in Oklahoma City, couple in Maine, and basically the whole idea was operational. So how efficient are you running your organization? Mm-hmm. Are you billing at the right rate? Do you have the right billing system? Do you have the right staff? But during that time, Yosuke, it was back 2010. That's when social media just started happening. I mean, at that time, Google didn't even own YouTube, and Facebook just came out. And my daughter used to be on Facebook and with this guy named she got on MySpace first.
Yeah.
And she was friends with this 30-year-old guy, and I'm thinking, who's that? So I was kind of down on social media, but as I started looking at it and realized that I could move my clients to social media, I really started embracing it. And I was blessed to have an opportunity. Met a guy, and he wanted me to be his national sales director selling video advertising. Well, at that time I was working with YouTube, and at that time YouTube wasn't even owned by Google, and then I was working with a couple of other companies, Yahoo, Verizon, and we were placing video ads for different businesses and I actually had to build a sales team around me. I was a sales manager, and we were really killing it until what happened. Then Google bought YouTube. Then more people started getting into what we were doing. So, but it really was. I mean, when I first got involved in digital, I met some guys that actually had hijacked, so you could put an ad on top of a we weren't even doing podcasts then. Did you
quit your job before you started a new career, I guess?
Yeah, I kept my I basically took my money from healthcare and took about 6 months off. Went to California, hung out for a while. It was good. It was cool. Yeah. And my wife was a nurse, and she left her job too. Yeah. So we're about 6 months. We just kind of my wife's daughter, got married in California. So we were out there for like 6 months, and then reality struck. Like we've gone through our savings, Yeah. But during that time, I was really building my digital marketing company, and from transitioning from healthcare to digital marketing, I learned this all myself, and I try to tell people I work with when I invest in people. I'm not talking about money I invest in people, but if you're going to do something like I did, you got to put the work in. I mean, what I know digitally, no one taught me other than me watching a webinar or going to a training session myself. But you got to put the work in. I put the work in, and since that time, I've opened 2 digital marketing companies. One's called Pathlight Digital Marketing, and then I have another company called Local Toma, which is top of mind awareness, local top of mind awareness. And so and I have clients around the country. I work with anywhere from a lot of churches to, I've actually done some casino work that you've done some video work for me as well. So.
Yeah. So like do you think like a lot of people change careers, right? Like used to be like, I guess, American dream or like whatever, right? Like when you go to college, you work for a company like forever or whatever. Right. But now it's like a more and more like, I think it's a statistic is like 3 years or 5 years or something like that to stay in a company. I don't know. But what do you think about changing a career? Is that do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a good thing. I mean, if you're tired of what you're doing, if you're not happy, think about it. A lot of people, think about the metro. Some people that live in Edmond got to drive 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get into the city. Some people live in Shawnee.
Yeah.
They have to drive in the city, 45-minute drive in, 45-minute. So you're figuring about an hour and a half on the road.
Yeah.
And then you go there and you're following somebody else's dream.
Yeah.
Someone started that company.
Yeah.
And you're just part of their plan.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, if you're working for somebody else, you're not following your dream.
Yeah.
You're following somebody else's dream. So I think people aren't happy at work. You look at the studies, a lot of people aren't happy in their workplace. I think they're working with less staff because of COVID issues.
Yeah.
I think they're working with less resources. So I empower people to follow what you want to do. And I think that's what you and I do really good, is we invest in people. I'm not talking financially, but our knowledge, with the knowledge that I have and the knowledge you and I gain from each other. That's what we're doing, to invest in people and encourage small entrepreneurs. And many times the big guys even realize that we've been doing the same thing day after day after day.
Yeah.
Your audience is changing now. So.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like what I've been thinking about. It's like entrepreneurial spirit, and also like small business, right? Like a people, I mean, 18-year-old like start a business. I mean, like I'm saying it like kind of like I'm old, and then like also like I did start kind of my kind of business like 18, 20, somewhere around there. But like we kind of glorified those people to start a business, and then they are starting business. I think like 70% or 90% of business fail, whatever. But at the same time, my thing is like those business needs employees, right? So like and then like also like a people like that kind of talk is almost like we're encouraging people to open the business, right? So like, where is the fine line, or like, do you think that people who are working for somebody else is not good? You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of like society is so much pushing people to be an entrepreneur or whatever. Like a Gary Vee, for example, like, oh, if you're 40, 50, you're not too late, start your stuff and, do TikTok, post 5 times a day. And then just like, it's just so much of like encouragement, right? I think it's a good thing, but I think, isn't that too much right now,
I think it depends on the person. I think that a lot of people have always had a dream.
Yeah.
Because something that I really believe, I'm one of those guys that believe that God has given us talents.
Yeah.
And sometimes those talents get blocked because we got to pay the bills, or we've got kids at home, or we've just a lot of the things that society tells us we need to do. Go to college, get a degree, then get a good job.
Yeah.
That doesn't guarantee success or happiness. Because if you don't feel happy and you don't feel successful, maybe you're not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think the hardest thing is with people, where I try to tell people, follow your dreams, not full time. Like Gary Vee said this, if you're going to work a job 8 to 10 hours a day somewhere else, don't go home, grab a beer, and start watching Lost.
That is true, yeah.
Get your nose out of Lost and start working on your project.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I think a lot of people have a dream, but they don't realize it's a business.
Yeah.
How many times you heard someone say, "Man, you cook good cookies," or maybe you've got some great, whatever it is,
right.
You're a good cook.
Yeah.
But you don't know deadly about business.
Yeah. True.
I find that in the ministry world, or working with churches and pastors sometimes, that they have a heart to serve people. They have a heart to serve God.
Yeah.
But the problem is, it's an organization. The minute you say, I'm going to do this, you and JC, well, we can't answer the phone. We can't do the billing on our own. So you got to find someone to do it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people don't realize, if you follow your dream, you got to come to people like you, come to people like me that will pour into you, because you've helped me in a lot of things dealing with your generation. I think I've shared things with you, the old gray-haired guy here, about my generation. But I think it's really knowing that when you venture out, there's support for you. But there's also, you got to realize that it's a business.
Yeah.
It really is a business,
Yeah, what do you think about like how does like those like big churches make money?
What's that again? The what?
Like big churches?
Oh yeah.
Like you're saying like a church and all that kind of stuff is organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen some like big church has like a big like a video production.
Mm-hmm.
They have a good facility, like a live stream,
Mm-hmm.
their websites and all that kind of stuff. I know that some of my web designer used to work for them or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then like it's high budget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like I was curious like how they make money.
Mm-hmm. I think it varies in different churches. I mean, there's a whole movement of that called name it and claim it, where they really say if it's about tithing or giving gifts, and they convince many a times, which is I don't agree with, but if you donate this much money to the church, you're going to get it back 10 times and stuff like that. I mean, really, a lot of these churches, some people really, don't get me wrong, there are some mega churches out there that, I think it's one, can't think of the name of it right now, but the guy wrote The Purpose-Driven Life. I mean, he gives 90% of his proceeds back to the community. I mean, he's a Rick Warren. Rick Warren's a guy that mega church, but he doesn't keep it for himself or build mansions like a lot of other folks do. He gives it back to the community. But some of them are slick marketing people. I mean, you think about when you're dealing people that have a need in life. You know, they're addicted, or they have financial problems, a marital problem. They go to someone for help. They trust these people.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the more you get people trusting you, the more testimonials people do. And people say, I don't identify with that pastor, but I identify with that guy, a gal over here. So they just keep growing. And then beside, rich people are Christians too, whether people believe it or not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that come outside that give huge donations to churches. So yeah, it's kind of, I don't work with a lot of those churches like that. I really like where the rubber meets the road type, but yeah, it's some people. I wish more pastors would call out those groups that are really fleecing people sometimes.
Yeah, why don't they do that, do you think?
I've challenged a couple. I mean, some of them.
You've challenged
I've
a couple?
challenged a couple, and I said,
like told them to like do it?
Do it because I don't have a platform. I'm just a guy that goes to church. But I think if you really believe what the Word says,
yeah,
and you really believe what the Bible says,
yeah,
is don't take verses out of there that meets your agenda.
Yeah.
Read the whole book. And I think, a lot of them are afraid that, well, it's like in today's world.
Yeah.
You may be against something, and I may be against something, and I see it happening. But I'm afraid to say something because of the retaliation.
Yeah.
The retaliation. I think that's happening in the church community too. There's so many churches that are afraid that if I say the wrong thing, I'm going to lose these people, or I'm going to lose these people. And I think what they try to do is just go through the book, go through the Bible, but don't necessarily call out. I did go to a pastor. I call him my pastor in Maine. He'd call him out. I mean, that's why I kind of have this flavor, because when I became a Christian and started listening to his teachings, he literally would call him out. I mean, he'd talk about the church as, he wouldn't call it seed money. He called it weed money. Because some of them weren't doing the right things. And,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of, I guess they're afraid to offend somebody, lose their population, their membership, whatever. But
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, like, I guess rich get richer kind of situation, right? I mean, I've seen some newses and all that kind of stuff that they did something wrong, but like they still are able to do business. And I think it's kind of different kind of organization, and then like but another thing is that a lot of business, but encouraging people to start the small business is that advantage to big corporation. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not sure if that's an advantage. So like if it's like Amazon or Walmart and those kind of people, right? Like, if from their perspective, do you think that people starting small business is beneficial? Does that make sense? Like, are they like taking advantage to, like, are they trying to like have a marketing, like a scheme or whatever, say, hey, start your company. By end of the day, that would be good for they're big companies. You know, I thought about that before.
Yeah, in some cases it is. I mean, I think some of the, for example, take a company like Boeing, for example. Boeing, massive, makes airplanes and so forth. My wife's dad used to be a Boeing executive, but then they get into the space industry and stuff like that. But there's also a lot of allied businesses because not everything is made in the Boeing plant.
Yeah.
Then it's made. Some of the parts actually come from small entrepreneurs that have contracts with Boeing. So some guy may be a mechanic or he may be a draftsman. He could literally work out of his home and still work for a huge corporation. I think a lot of the huge corporations that, how do I say this, but there's a lot of entry level positions. The Walmarts of the world, the Amazons of the world, the Costco's. If you go there, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity for people at those entry level positions, but many times very few of them rise up to the management type positions. So
yeah.
So, but there is some companies, if for example, QuickBooks or say Zoom or whatever, they would want people to go into business because if you and me are going to go into business, we're going to need one or two of those products, right?
Yeah.
If we're going to do podcasting, if we're going to do any video, and if you're going to do bookkeeping, why would you not use QuickBooks or something like that? But
that's true.
But I don't think there's I don't think most people think about what's really going on sometimes. Everyone's in their own little worlds.
Yeah.
But,
that makes sense. I mean, honestly, I was thinking, so like you made like wealth for yourself and then like successful. Like what is the like kind of things that you did to like always had it like financially like a stable freedom?
Well, it never starts out that way. Obviously, you've got to be positioned in a job enough that you can, because it's not always about money. It's always about time. And I think that's the thing that with me was like, I think I told you the other day that one time when I was a Chamber of Commerce director, I was also a varsity football coach in my town. The head coach. I just didn't show up. I had to figure everything out. The work plan. Then I decided to run for legislature at the same time.
Yeah.
That's all, so it's a work ethic. It really is. And the thing is, you something, if I could say anything, everybody is we're all going to fall down. We're all going to make mistakes. It's how quick you get back up again. And most your really successful people have failed. They don't wear on their chest how many failures they have because you only hear about the one success they've had.
Yeah.
But they may have had 15 failures before they actually, like Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
Ran for, I think, president 7 times before he got elected. I mean, so it gives you an example, but I just think people need to, what do you like? I think I don't care if it's even a hobby could turn into a business or a side business. In the digital world, for example, my daughter was a nurse, didn't get the vaccine. State of Maine was really restrictive on no waivers whatsoever, no religious waivers, no medical waivers.
Yeah.
And what happened, she got fired. They literally walked my daughter, nurse supervisor, out the door. And she always had this idea that I wanted to sell clothes. She always liked clothing. She was, and so she started about 5 years ago selling clothes on eBay. Now she's on a channel called Whatnot, and she's doing $200 or $300 a weekend selling clothes. But she's putting the time in, and I'm saying I'm proud of her.
Yeah.
Because she's doing the extra work. She works all day. She has a young child. She works for her mom, which is a nurse practitioner. But she has a young child, and I'm proud of her that she's taking the extra effort. My son started, bachelor's degree like his own, dad. He after he graduates from college, he says, "Dad, you got a lawnmower?" "Yeah, I got a lawn." So he wanted to start a landscaping business.
Yeah.
I don't think landscaping. Well, he turned it into $800,000 business. COVID came around, he lost it. But the thing is, he worked out long hours. He'd be out plowing snow at 3:00 in the morning, and I think a lot of people have to realize that when you do fall down, you can get back up. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that I've always realized is don't take yourself too serious, but also there's always something else out there if that doesn't work for you.
Yeah, I love that mentality of like, yeah, I mean, a lot of people like starting business and all that kind of stuff, they can't do it because they're scared of failure, right? I mean, I don't know, like I think whenever I was starting, I think my bank account went to like a negative, like probably 5-6 times, you know, and then like, oh, pay rent and all that kind of stuff. And then, you know, like literally movie things of like a past due and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. It happened so many times. And then what's the worst thing that can happen after that? You know what I mean? Then like I just, at that point, like I had to be successful. I had to do something to get away with that situation. So there's no going back on there. I think there's a bunch of stuff I did to make it stable or whatever. And then it just, I think a lot of people thinks it's kind of funny, right? Cliches for a reason, but work smarter, not harder. I think sometimes like your daughter and then your son and have a business and they're working hard. I think that's necessary, but certain point to become making a living, to making like a career or like a building a company. Once you start building a company, you have to have a structure, and then if you have a structure, you don't really have to work that hard, but like you save time to have somebody else do your job. Then you can kind of start building opportunity elsewhere. So I mean, that's kind of what my take on it. But I thought that was interesting. You were saying like you always were head coach of the football team, CEO of the company whenever you were 25, and then you did like a politician, right?
Yeah.
Politics world.
Politics, yeah.
Yeah.
A few
so,
times.
yeah. So I was curious because that kind of stuff is like, because of, like in Japan or like the culture thing or maybe like American things too, but you have to work your way up, right? Like a mentality of like, I'm pretty sure you didn't do like assistant coach for the football for like many years or whatever, or like, because CEO stuff too, right? Like you weren't like file clerk or mail person or whatever, but like did you just got the job? Just how did you get those kind of position with the head coach or like a top, instead of like spending time to like level up in your field, if that makes sense?
Well, I think the biggest thing was I'll go back to my childhood, is that my dad worked in the cement plant, basically a cement plant where they crushed rocks and it makes the cement that makes the roads. And so he worked he was a labor type maintenance guy in that company.
Yeah.
My mom literally worked in the fish plant. You probably have in Japan, you see where women cut heads off fish and they can them. My mom did that. Well, when I was in high school, my dad said, hey, we got a job at the mill when you graduate from college. I mean, graduate from high school, you want to come work there? And I said, no, I'm not going to go work at the plant. So because I'd hear him come home from work, working late some night. Yeah. Come home coughing, cement dust all over. And he eventually died of cancer, I think, because of that. I said, I'm going to college. So I decided to go to college. But I guess, so I went to college, met my contacts there and stuff. But I've always tried to play a game ahead of me. For example, what I mean by that is maybe I'm not qualified. Maybe I don't have the degrees that guy did before. Yeah. But get me in the room. Let me tell you, so my success came from being me, I guess. I love people. I always try to encourage people. When I ran my companies or even groups, I always brought everybody into the process. It wasn't top down. It was digesting what came up from the bottom. But some of it, I don't think, some of it was luck. I was in the right place at the right time. I also say living in Maine, even though I was a big fish in a small pond, small state, I often said I was a victim to my environment, because can you imagine if I grew up in New York or if I grew up in California, where I'd have a lot more people pouring into me that might help me out. But what I learned the most, Yosuke, from management and just life in general, I learned not what to do more than what to do. I saw some people that sucked with people who are mean to people. People treat their employees like, they publicly chastise you right in front of an audience. Yeah. But privately, they say they apologize. I didn't want to be that type of boss. So I think my thing was, I took the risk. I always I applied for jobs that maybe I wouldn't get it. Yeah. But maybe I would get it. But I just think I was kind of born like a leader. I can't explain it. You know,
Yeah.
I've always wanted to lead people, move people.
Yeah.
So yeah, some of the times I did start in the personnel department, filing stuff before I became a personnel director. That was
Yeah.
an intern job at college. I also went around and delivered paychecks on Thursdays, and everybody loved me because there's the guy with the paychecks. Because in the old days, we didn't have electronic.
Yeah.
I literally went around and handed paychecks out to nurses, and they
Yeah.
loved it. I love seeing them. So.
That's funny. Yeah, because like whenever I was doing movies at the time, right? And then one of my camera assistant asked me, say, okay, so like how long did you do like a first AC job? Like, cause like a cameraman, there's like different steps, right? Like if it's a movie set, you have PA, which is like a production assistant,
Right.
like a bring coffee kind of vibe person, right? And then second AC, which is like a people who does like clapping, and then also like a pull, you know, whatever. And the first AC, like a pull focus, and then there's a camera operator, and then a director of photography, so like called DP or whatever. And then so I was filming a feature film in Dallas, and then I was director of photography on that feature film. That was pretty decent side budget, and then like we had actors from LA and all that kind of stuff. And then my first AC asked me like, how long you been doing like a camera work and second AC work? Like I said, I never done it. Like I never done those second AC or first AC job. I did a gaffer job, which is a lighting department, head of the lighting department.
Did you get credits in the film?
Yeah.
Your name was in the film?
Yeah. But yeah, of course I filmed it. But yeah, so like he asked me and I said, never done it. He's like, how can you just become a director of photography and get hired? I was like, well, I just call myself director of photography and people just start hiring me as director of photography. And then if you just shoot right, if you just film the good things and then meet people's expectation, like you don't really need to work the way you're up for. Like I worked in a different department, I worked in different things. I was looking at things on how the director of photography works and you know, that kind of stuff, and that was enough for me. I just didn't have to have that time to do the second AC, first AC career stuff, because I believe when people start doing those kind of jobs, that people look at you as that person.
Right.
But meaning like if you're like working in the healthcare business or like you doing like a payroll, whatever, people will start referring you to as the payroll person, right? But if you just come into like in a meeting, say, "Hey, I'm the CEO of this company," people will look at you like a CEO company, right? So I was just curious because you always seemed like had a top level job, so you just kind of like say you're top level people and then you just got the top level job. Is that a kind of thing? Or
yeah, it is. I mean, sometimes it's having confidence in yourself, and I think here's the thing about you, for example, and maybe at me some level too, but you know, I know you had someone that you did was on American Idol, that was the voice of American Idol.
Yeah,
he was here and found the mic and too, and just think about that for a minute. I mean, so many people. Like you take the American Idol concept, you take people that are working in warehouses, you take people that are waitresses, you take folks that maybe be a manager, and all of a sudden they got this beautiful voice, but they're not following their dream, and they don't know how to get where they did.
Yeah.
So what happens is, I think right now, for example, there's better players out there in streets playing basketball. Not all of them, but there's some better players out there playing pick-up basketball. Some guy that works at a mill that's probably better than somebody playing the NBA.
Yeah,
he
that's
just
true.
didn't get a chance. He just didn't know how to get where he did. And I think what happens is, in your skill set, you knew this. You just didn't have the title behind you. I know how to manage people, even if I didn't have the title behind me. But the cool thing is, once you get that title, you ride that baby. You know, once you become a CEO of a company, or once you become a politician. I was a county commissioner.
Yeah.
I mean, once I can put down my resume, football coach. I mean, and things kind of happen. I had nowhere in my resume did I want to be a varsity football coach.
Yeah.
I wanted to play football, but it was too little. I wasn't as big as I am now, fat as I am now. But my son was moving up from junior high and they asked me if I'd help out. Well, my son's playing because I'm going to be at the game anyways. So what happened was, as he I had done some pee-wee coaching before then, some freshman coaching. But when he transitioned up to varsity football, I said, he was a big kid, and he's about 250, high school, paid $240 maybe.
Yeah.
He was good as a freshman.
Yeah.
And he was going to start.
Yeah. And
I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I got to get up there and help him out because he's going to get killed.
Yeah.
Well, he did. He didn't get killed. I moved up with him, but consequently, as I was the assistant coach, the head coach quit, and I took over the head jobs. But nowhere did I want to do that, but I enjoyed doing it. I mean, so I think. I just think of being of service to people, but and really, I talk to everybody and listen to everybody because you never know. We had the conversation the other day. How many times have we talked to people that we see something in them that they don't see themselves?
Yeah.
If they only could get tweaked a little bit, and that's what I'm doing right now with helping businesses, pouring into them, helping them to take my knowledge. And one thing I want to say quickly too is, I thought there. Talk about where we are in life. You can't change the past, right?
No.
Can't dwell over it. You can't predict the future, but I think you can plan the future a little bit better.
Yeah.
And then, but where you are, be there. That's a really important thing. Is be in the present. Treat people the way you want to treat. Study like if you want to study, if you want to grow in something. But we can't predict the future. But what I'm trying to teach people, you can plan, because who would think? Seriously, with COVID. I mean, I was from the medical community, so I knew that medically we would figure it out.
Yeah.
People were getting the COVID exponentially. It means they were getting everywhere. You touch, we're washing stuff down. People crazy about we were going to catch COVID.
Yeah.
But exponentially, people weren't dying, right? So that was a good thing. And I knew our scientists, and we'd figure this out. What freaked me out was freaking economy shut down. You can't go. I mean, who? That freaked me.
Yeah.
Who would think that would happen? Well, that very thing is going to happen in someone's life today. Something's going to happen right now as we're sitting here. There's some business closing because they didn't prepare. There's some business right now that's freaking out because they can't find people. They haven't shifted. So when I'm trying to convince people, we've got a huge example with COVID out there, how things have changed. Are you going back to your old ways? No, it's okay. I'm going. No, things are going to, we talked about it the other day. We don't know where the economy is going to go. So I'm trying to train people through the groups I work with, is basically to start preparing, start knowing, because I found out during COVID, when I lost 60% of my business, the 40% I did keep, why'd I keep them? Because I had a relationship with them. I knew them. We talked about COVID. We talked about how our businesses were affected. We band together. So I'm trying to teach people now is you don't have to go it alone. But a day like COVID's going to happen again. Hopefully not my lifetime, but something may happen. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of just having people be aware of what's really happening. Pay attention.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of. I mean, you can't plan it that unexpected, but you can plan for the safety, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how you can do that whenever. I mean, like it's a risk and reward, I guess, right? Like in the business, like sometimes you have to take a risk.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
We've talked about your goals, and I've talked about my goals.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to feel when you get there?
Say what?
How are you going to feel when you get there?
I think whenever I get there, I think it'll be good, but I don't think it changed much. I'm probably gonna have another goal after that. It's just that I think that to get to my goal is more fun.
Yeah, so it's the journey, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I try to tell people. You got to embrace the journey.
Yeah.
Because it may not turn out the way I mean, think about it. If I was to give you $100,000 right now, you probably think of ways of spending it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a type of guy, you're probably going to invest some of it too.
Mm-hmm.
But money does not make you happy. The ultimate goal does not make you happy. The money and the resources you gather give you the opportunity to do what you really want to do in life. But I think the journey, you're absolutely right, is you've got to enjoy the journey. Because if you don't enjoy picking up the phone, if you don't enjoy, if you've got a car wash, and if you don't enjoy checking on, if you don't enjoy it, why do it, right? So, and then you're absolutely right. What's the next thing you want to conquer? Because during that, because that could fail,
Right.
That could very fail. Like I said, the past. But guess what? You probably learned a crap load of stuff.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do it again, right? So,
yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of things that like I've been kind of thinking about lately. Is that should I just do one thing? You know what I mean? Like, because of marketing and advertising and all that kind of stuff, right? Like focusing on the one company, but like seems like a lot of people talks about diversification, right? And then like, is that be better? And then, but also like, I kind of like that, like I can do a bunch of different stuff because I get bored easily.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you have ADD like me, shiny object syndrome.
So like it's like, and then also like I'm trying to be good at managing my time and then managing my effort, because of like you and I have kind of same similarity about, okay, we see this vision, this could be successful. Okay, this is another opportunity. This is another opportunity. So let's just try it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but if you diverge too much too fast, nothing become like 100% successful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like I'm just trying to like pick 3 things. So like lately I've been living my life of like 3 things it's important to me today.
Mm-hmm.
And then like I have a list on my phone or on my desk on the paper. I kind of write it down, say, today I'm going to take care of this and this and that, either personal or even business or my hobby or whatever. I do have those like 3 things in my head to move towards. So like I do have like 5-year goal. And then I wrote it down like this is what I wanted to accomplish. And then those 3 things I write it down is gonna be good for those 5-year goals. Mm-hmm. So every day I'm just doing stuff to make sure I'm achieving that goal, mm-hmm. I guess, to go into that direction. And then sometimes, I'm not gonna do much stuff today. Mm-hmm. That's just a kind of like mm-hmm. my goal, because I think mental health is important. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, I think that's something that I'm trying to showcase or like talk to everybody about. I guess old days or whatever, like people weren't talking about too much about mental health. Mm-hmm. But like, as I think the brain is a big muscle in your head. Mm-hmm. I think it's important. Sometimes it's more important than your health. Mm-hmm. It's because brain does, I think, signals all your mm-hmm. body. Mm-hmm. So I think that that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Like I was making one of the YouTube video talking about mental health, and I was like, mm-hmm. Like a lot of fitness influencer make like a cool slow motion transition mm-hmm. and a sweaty kind of like a montage video, right? Mm-hmm. Why can't make a mental health cool? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I was like, it was kind of like a funny video I'm trying to make. It's like, well, I'm reading a book and then make it look cool. But yeah, what do you think about that kind of like, I don't know, like how do you live day to day, I guess, right now?
Gosh, my mind's like yours. I mean, I'm an idea guy. I mean, I'll see something, I'll immediately think, well, that could be changed and stuff like that. I guess my thing is I have a hot tub. I sit there and relax, and meditate and that. It's kind of I think is mental health is important. A lot of it is having a relationship. I know you have a great relationship with your girlfriend. I have great with my wife, and a relationship that you can share your thoughts, your ideas, your cares, your worries with someone you can trust is important. A lot of people don't have that, so they have to find it within themselves. So you've got to take time, because if you don't have it together mentally, you're going to be no good for anybody else, right? And so I think it's important that people realize that, don't take yourself too serious. I really think one of the best ways to really feel good about yourself is really give. I think that's the thing that I'm working with some of my groups, and I'll tell you about that later. But just to give, I think sometimes we have inward eyeballs, how everything affects us, and I think that even though a lot of people would see what you were doing with MMA or the Taekwondo, what you were doing is relaxing. You got in there and wanted to really, to really challenge yourself, and it's like when I started, I played pickleball a little bit, but I immediately went from playing pickleball. I want to be in some stinking tournament. I want to be, I don't want to be in your age group tournament. I want to be in some old guys tournament, But I think it's not taking yourself too serious, knowing that whatever's happening today is going to be different tomorrow. I believe in prayer. Prayer. I think praying, asking God to open doors for you. I really believe that happens, and a lot of people don't. And I can't tell them it's going to work for them. I just know how it's worked for me, and to be able to pray for people or help people. Don't walk by people, and because I always believe in breathing life and encouragement into people, and I think doing that makes you feel better, because it takes off from the stress of the daily stuff, and I think when you talked about multiple income streams, that's very important. And we talk about how we scale businesses. Like, for example, say if you all of a sudden landed a huge contract with Window World, that just came top of my head. All of a sudden, how are you going to scale that? How many more employees do I need? But I think we have to scale our personal lives. I think we have to say, if I'm into three different things, three different projects, how much of me can I put in each one of those?
Yeah.
And then
Makes sense.
Who am I going to rely on? Am I going to rely on JC, Amanda out front? I think that was her name. Whoever you...
Paige.
out front. But I'm just thinking, so how you scale your own personal... How much time do you give your girlfriend?
Yeah.
I mean, how much time... So I think it's not thinking it's always all about us.
Yeah.
Because we ain't that important.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I do ask this question the kind of end of the segment too, but 5 years ago, the 2018, right? That's pre-COVID. What were you doing in 2018?
I was doing digital marketing, doing digital. Fly came by. I feel like the guy was American Idol that had the fly and see. I was doing digital marketing at that time, and I think what I learned from that was, like I said, I lost a lot of that business, and now I've transitioned and setting up business groups, and it's more specifically Christian business group, because those people hopefully are givers, and there's so many causes that I want to be behind, that I learned from COVID of the needs out there, that we've worked with anti-human trafficking organization, which is a big need. Not only is it sexual trafficking, but it's slave labor trafficking. We've worked with addiction ministries and stuff like that. So at my point, you look at me 5 years ago, today, I'm about giving today. I was stressed like everybody else, and how am I going to pay the bills? Is my career going to be where I want it to be? Now it's like, it's going to happen. I just need to reach out to more people, network with people, and just, 5 years ago I was doing what I am, but I've grown.
If you had to give yourself advice to yourself 5 years ago, what would that be?
Be more disciplined. I think I learned from having some big accounts, good money, they went away. So rather than have one client that's paying you $10,000 a month, and they go away, maybe you need to have 5 clients paying you $2,500 a month, and I think because once you get comfortable, that's relative, right? I mean, that you may be comfortable today, but uncomfortable tomorrow. So my advice would be basically to be more disciplined. I think that's the weakest thing. Like, I'm like you, I have shiny object syndrome. That looks good. I want to do this. AI's come out now. I want to know how much I can about AI, and what can I do, things like that. So I need to be more disciplined in what I do. And I would recommend it to anybody, is just really stay focused and then scale yourself. How can you give of your time so you can be successful at one of the 4 or 5 things you're doing, rather than being marginally successful in any of them. So
yeah, today, like, you talked about, so like you said a couple of times, kind of caught my not eyes, but I guess, but you said don't take life seriously. I think you said it multiple times. Like, what made you say that a lot?
Well, I think life is serious. I think we're put on this earth to give, to help others. I think God has a plan for every one of us, but when I say don't take life too serious, I think really is don't take yourself too serious. I mean, some people, most of the fights that people have is over 2 or 3 things: greed, envy, covenants. I want what they have.
Yeah.
I want what they have. And I think we talked about this the other day. People want what you have.
Yeah.
At your age, people want what you have. At my age, people want what I've done.
Yeah.
But they're not willing to do what we did.
Yeah.
And it's the thing. So I just think that, when I say don't take life serious, I mean, life is a gift. You know that really sincerely right now. Life can change.
Yeah.
And I think it's a gift, and it's what we have to do with it. I'm not saying you have to earn your way into heaven. We're just supposed to be this way for people and help people. So I don't take myself serious. People that surround me. I ran for legislature one time, lost by 21 votes. Had all these people working for me. I knocked on the doors. I did the debates. I did everything. My team that worked with me, the day after the election, I lost by 21 votes. That morning, I was out there by myself, picking up my signs, went right back to work, did my job. My team that worked was devastated. Oh, how you go on? I said, hey, you can't take, I'm not that important. Obviously, people, they want someone else. But me, if you think yourself, sometimes people, it's pride, it really is pride. People have fights because of pride. And I just think when I say don't take life serious, you should take life very serious because it's precious. I said, don't think you're too much. You're too big, because there's always someone bigger. There's always someone faster. There's always someone smarter. And I think, so I'm just trying to teach people, be you. And if you're doing the right things, the business will come to you. The relationships will come to you. But yeah, I'm sorry I said take your life serious, young man.
But don't take yourself too
don't take
serious.
No.
Yeah. I mean, have fun, right? I mean,
have fun, but also be at peace with yourself. That's a real key thing. Being at peace. There's a difference between being happy, because happy could be incremental. It could be based on an event. But do you have peace within yourself that everything's going to be okay? Are you happy? Are you happy with the skin you're in? I'd like to be. I've lost some of my bulk because I haven't been to the gym. I got fat bulk, but I'm not happy the way. But obviously, I'm comfortable what I'm doing right now. But I'm at peace what I'm doing because, you have that sense. I can't explain peace, but there's a difference between happiness and peace. And I think when people realize they have peace in their life and say, I can't control it, I can't fix everything in the world. I just have to feel comfortable that tomorrow's a new day. And if you're doing the same thing day after day and expecting something to change, somewheres when you go to bed that night and the next morning you got to change something. Because if you don't like your outcome every day, because maybe you're doing the same thing every day, maybe you're hanging with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Maybe you're hanging with idiots. Maybe you're hanging with whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, totally makes sense to me. What about 5 years ago? No, 5 years ago. What about how do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, I hope I'm alive. I think gosh, I'd like to see that I've been an influence to people. I'd like to say that I made some kind of impact in people's lives. I won't know that until I go to heaven and I happen to see them up there. If they didn't make it, well, but I just think that the things that you and I do, which is kind of cool, that things that you and I do, we're never going to see the results unless we. How many times you've worked with people and you haven't seen them for 4 or 5 years, but you see them a couple of years later and say, oh my gosh, So I think there's things that we do, and it's always, but 5 years I see myself of, I just being a bigger, taking the gifts I've been given through God and helping people, whether they want to hear them or not. I'm going to at least keep telling them what I think they should be doing. Not preachy to them, but they come to me. But basically, I just see me have a bigger platform than just working out of my office. Maybe I have a bigger platform like you're building, where people say this guy's not full of crap. He's got some good advice. So I guess being pouring words of encouragement to people, helping them whatever they want to be, and I guess maybe just a bigger platform. And maybe this will help me from the show. You have such a large following.
No, I'm not on the way there. I'm enjoying this like a podcast, It's just like meeting new people like almost every week, and then I'm publishing this and every week, and then I don't know. It's just everybody has a different story, and then I think that's the only things that make it people differentiate. Also like become successful, not successful, whatever, on like a creative world is the storytelling aspect. I think storytelling was like such a like a kind of a trend once before, but it's not even a trend. It's being always a storytelling, because there's so many like AIs and like technologies and how cool the video is and special effects. Yes, I think a lot of people can do that now, and a lot of people will be able to. Such a less cost, and then also like less time to put it in. Like put like a fire in the background or whatever could have been, I don't know, a day job or 2-day job like 10 years ago. Now you can probably do it in like
2 minutes, probably.
Yeah.
If you get the platform,
like
upload.
10 minutes for sure. So like, I'm just liking that about the learning about people's story and the storytelling aspect of it. So I think I'm kind of enjoying it. Is there anything else you wanted to cover?
Yeah, I guess where I'm looking at is some of the groups I'm working with. Like I mentioned, is the local groups I'm forming, and I also have a national group I've formed where just people can get together and talk about, so they can be real, and I think that you're so right about telling stories, because I think that we all began somewheres, and I get really stoked by telling stories. And something I've told you before, I've gotten back in my mind is, and hopefully start doing some podcasts, is not bad for an old guy, because there's some ordinary men out there and women that have doing extraordinary things that we don't know about. It's like I said, the people in American Idol, that guy that you had in here, that's a phenomenal singer, but he worked at home as a graphic designer, or some gal that worked at Walmart. Now so there's ordinary people like you and me that are doing extraordinary things. I want to hear their stories. I want to bring them in here.
Yeah.
And maybe you and I both can do it, but just because I think what that does empowers people. It gets us out of our crazy world. You think of all the songs that are written back, at least when I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Well, let's take country songs. All about life. All about life. It's some story about someone's crappy life, usually crappy life in country music. So I think people love to hear stories, and I think that nowadays it's so easy to get people's stories out there. So that's kind of where I want to go with stuff. Is as I hear these stories, I'm going to keep a portfolio of them, and then the good ones I'd maybe bring in here and say, hey, how did you start that business? Well, I started selling furniture out of the back of my truck. Wow, now look at you. So because that inspires people. It makes them think that maybe I could do it too. It gives them hope.
Yeah, I think that's the whole reason I think I'm doing it. It's just like
really? Yeah.
give people show the people that endless possibility. And also like it's a lot of people going through, like I'm talking about, career change, but that's why I wanted to have like a lot of different people in here rather than stick to like just a jiu-jitsu or just like a movie people. I had a beekeeper, professional gamer, real estate people, musician, jiu-jitsu guy, like a whole bunch of people, but they make a living of what they love. And then also some people have a different, like a passion project going on. And then some people, beat the cancer, like a stage 4 and all that kind of stuff. And then there is a lot of story to be told, and then a lot of the potential. I think if I believe in that, if people can see it, and then people have enough courage to talk about it, the only things you have to do is to do it.
Right.
So I think I believe in that. And then if I can give people opportunity to see the life and to see the opportunity and then see the career path or see the life they wanted to have through this podcast, to show glimpse of their life that they can potentially have or potentially see, and then I think that will make me happy.
Well, it's funny when we first started talking about the podcast a few months ago, and we were talking. I think we were at a restaurant having lunch and something, and you were talking about how you were gathering these followers and you wanted to get so many subscribers, and at that time, and that's what happens in today's world. About the more content we create, the more people do follow us to give us platforms. But I can really tell what you just said, that you enjoy doing this, and I think in here, your heart, it's fulfilling something in you more than the number of followers, and you just like sitting here hearing people's stories because it's doing something for you. And hopefully as your platform grows, more people are going to be inspired by that, because the followers, the clicks, the likes are going to go away, but this is gonna, when you have these one-on-ones with people and they're open with you and they're transparent, I can tell you're enjoying it, man. I really can.
Thank you. Yeah, and then I learned stuff, like I learned about you that I didn't know today, that's cool thing.
Now you don't want to work with me ever again.
No, I would like to work with you. But thank you for coming to the show, Clayton. And then thank you guys for coming to this podcast every week on the Friday. If you're watching YouTube, I know we just say likes and subscribe doesn't count, but it does help me on this channel. So please like and comment and subscribe, and hit the link and notification on. If you guys are listening on the Spotify or any other podcast platform, please give me a 5-star review. I'm not really sure what helps the 5-star review, but download all that kind of stuff, and then that will help me. And then keep support, and then keep having this show alive and going. So thank you guys for coming in, and see you guys next Friday. Peace. All right.